All right, intermediate algebra homework 36 is starting out with what's known as the Pythagorean theorem. Some guy named Pythagoras figured out that if I have a right triangle, it's a right angle in there, that the sum of the legs squared, the legs are the two short sides, is equal to the hypotenuse squared. The hypotenuse is always the longest side. So the formula looks like this. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Keeping in mind that that is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the long side. The longest side is always opposite my right angle. So I want to use my Pythagorean theorem to find the length of x, round my answer to the nearest hundredth. So this would be my A and my B side. This would be my C side because that's my longest side. So 9 squared plus 11 squared is going to equal x squared using the values that they used. I would then want to calculate that. 9 times 9, 9 squared, 81. 11 times 11, 121 equals x squared. I am then going to go ahead and add my 81 plus my 121. And I get 202 equals x squared. Now we need to solve that for x instead of x squared. So we do the opposite of squaring in order to solve that. The opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So in order to find x, we're going to do the square root of 202 on our calculator. So square root of 202 gives me 14.212 ... We want to round our answer to the nearest hundredth, so we need to carry this at least 3 places because the hundredth is 2 places. Since there's a 2 behind that, we're going to round that off to 14.21. So x is going to be 14.21. The second one, for the following right triangle, find the length of the side x, round your answer to the nearest hundredth. Again, we want to make sure that the two short sides are A or B, the long side is a C. So this would be A, this would be B, this would be C. The long side is always opposite that right angle. So I would say that 10 squared plus x squared is going to equal 11 squared when I set up my formula. The sum of the two short sides squared is equal to the longer side squared. 10 squared is 100. 11 squared is 121. If I want to solve this one for x squared on this one, I've got to move my 100 over to the other side. So I'm going to minus 100. X squared is going to equal 21. Again, in order to solve this, I do the opposite of squaring. I'm going to take the square root. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 21 I'm going to do on my calculator. I get 4.58. I'm writing my next number down. 4.5825. I'm rounding it to the nearest hundredth, so 4.58 is going to be the length of that side. The third one, again using my Pythagorean theorem. First thing I want to do, figure out which one's on my short side, which is my long side. So I'm going to have A, B, and C. By the way, if you switch the A and B around, it's the same thing. As long as you've got the long side by itself. So my Pythagorean theorem would say x squared plus 10 squared equals that longest side squared, 13 squared. So x squared plus 100 equals 169 if you take 13 and square it. Again, to solve this one, since I want the x by itself, I've got to minus the 100. X squared equals 69. In order to get that just a plain x instead of an x squared, I do the square root of both sides. And so the square root of 69 gives me 8.3066. I want to round it to the nearest hundredth. Because there's a 6 behind there, I have to round that one up. 8.31 is going to be my answer rounded to the nearest hundredth.